Good afternoon, everyone. I've been entrusted with SDG 9, the 3 I's, innovation, infrastructure, and industry. Not forgetting that there's another I, of course, implied, which is you and me and everybody. It's a very contrasting presentation from the one just before, because I have a macro perspective, which unfortunately is also important. We must remember that given that we have a capitalist system, much of our economic engine depends on investment, depends on infrastructure that generates jobs and employment. And our island, of course, has thrived in recent years by being able to serve as a platform for foreign investment, generated also with the existence of suitable fiscal and labor market incentives. But remember, it's a small island. Our spurt in industrialization is pretty recent. We've gone through various cycles, but there are still some companies that have persisted in their allegiance to the country. These are some of the firms that have come to Malta 50 years ago. They're still here, sometimes even with the same names. In the meantime, of course, our economy has changed. We've shifted from light manufacturing to something which is much more value-added. We've moved into services. We've moved into pharmaceuticals, etc. So these are all new investments coming in. Plus, we also need to remind ourselves we've also generated a healthy body of local industries. Companies like Farsons, Corinthia Group, Intercomp, and Vortex represent Maltese investment, both in Malta and increasingly overseas. I'm actually ahead of my slides, which is great. Okay, so yes, of course, we need to cope with change as well. Had we been around 50, 60 years ago, half the people in the room would have had somebody working at the dockyard. It's no longer the case. Things have moved on. And of course, we still have a maritime tradition. In fact, we see potential in that area. In the meantime, of course, we have invested in things like the marina, like the Freeport, and so on. Building on what has already been said by Dr. Piscopo, we need also to build on our own brands, things that connect with our own lifestyle, our own natural resources, be they food, drink, wine, tuna fishing, a lucrative industry, by the way, exporting to Japan, fresh tuna. And Gozo, of course, has its own claim to fame, including its own beer these days and other activities that, of course, enhance the productivity of our neighboring island. How do we support incoming investments, incoming ideas? Of course, entrepreneurship is key. Various outfits have been set up in order to promote new ideas, even though they might be crazy. It's worth testing them out. ZAR, of course, is another very recent initiative at the university. And we need to offer the infrastructure to make that happen. Infrastructure goes through cycles itself. It needs to be supported and maintained. It needs to be replaced. Factories, etc., have lifetimes, and it's important that we budget accordingly for that. In the meantime, it's a small island with 500,000 people. Typical roads will take 50 million items of traffic on an annual basis. I'm not joking. And therefore, of course, the maintenance is very important as well on our infrastructural arteries. The infrastructural arteries also need to change, taking on board other types of travel. Sometimes we forget that we're surrounded by water. Sometimes we forget that most of our communities are coastal, and that traveling from one place to the other might be easier and cheaper and faster by sea. And of course, we now have ferries plying across Grand Harbour and Marsamxett as well. Other types of mobilities coming up. Don't forget, we also have the famous Renault 11, our pair of legs, walking, cycling, and other forms of using more economically viable and eco-friendly transportation, including, of course, vehicles that are now powered by electricity. Big projects, again, something we need to keep in mind, the possibility of huge infrastructure to connect the two islands. There was a seminar last Saturday where people were discussing a tunnel connecting Malta and Gozo. Big job, but who knows, if we want to maintain Gozo as a viable community, it may be something that has to be done. Gozo is the only region in Malta that has a flat population right now. And that tunnel indeed may, in order to give it a more kind of a national profile, it may connect with a huge infrastructural project that will develop a metro or some kind of system underneath the whole Maltese archipelago. Knowledge infrastructure, of course, is important. I put there the top end, the top of the iceberg in a way, not forgetting that even conventional official levels of schooling, would be the primary, pre-primary, secondary, etc., are also very important. We need to believe, we need to try and try again. We may have a culture that fears failure because of being branded as somebody who has failed, being blacklisted. I think we need to just appreciate, we need to just rise up and carry on and to hell with what people think. Finally, looking ahead in the future, keep in mind that according to prognosis of climate change, there are very serious problems in store for Malta, particularly on the eastern coast. Sea level rise is a reality, and what are we going to do about it? Thank you.